It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley. Let's celebrate the Thursday show. Gary, hello.
Hey, what's going on?
What's happening?
Best meme I saw today.
Yeah.
About the Cracker Barrel new redesign for the logo.
Yeah.
Said they took away the barrel and they took away the cracker.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Every good thing must come to an end. All right.
All right,
fine.
so let's start off the show. Let's see what Ms. Now is doing.
All right. What's Ms. Now doing?
Ms. Now, who is this here? Molly Young Fast. I guess a Democrat, whatever, pundit on with Joe Scarborough. Okay?
All right. Okay.
And Joe Scarborough citing the report that Democrats have lost ground to Republicans in all 30 states to track voter registration. Why? And this is one of her responses. Okay, let's see where she goes with this.
All right,
here we go.
You know, breathing into a paper bag. I'm trying to calm down a little bit, but you know, John just quoted a remarkable stat out of the New York Times that in the 30 states where they track voter registration over the past 4 years, Democrats have lost to Republicans in every single state. Why?
So this is the $24 million question, right? Why are Democrats not, why are the polls bad? Why are they not breaking through? And I think it's a couple things. I think one is the people who are breaking through are brave, right? They talk like humans. They make the case, you know, and again, it's like Pritzker's chief of staff told me, it's not necessarily left versus center. It's fight versus cave. And the people who fight get support. And the people who cave or are mealy-mouthed or are, you know, very sort of corporatist-y, that crew, the crew that's afraid, cannot break through, does not appeal to voters. The question is, it's only going to be for people who really feel authentic, right?
Sherrod's never been afraid of a shadow.
Exactly.
He's always spoken his mind.
Chris Murphy, Sherrod Brown, Mondami, these people, AOC, they're not all exactly the same politically, but they are the same in the fact that they're brave and they break through.
You know,
They just don't get it. They're going to continue with the same BS.
Yeah.
BS MSNBC. That's a BS. Excuse me. That's a BS now, not a BS MSNBC.
Right.
That's a BS now.
Yeah.
That what they need is more for the Democratic Party to come back. They need more Mondamis. They need more AOCs. What the heck? I want to play one more audio here. They need my Congresswoman. Are you ready?
I talk to black folk all the time as somebody that's a child of a preacher. Listen, most black people are not Republicans simply because we just is like, y'all racist. I can't hang out with the KKK in them. That's really what it is. But when we think about who we are as black people and we think about where we come from, most black people have very conservative values, right? But the reality is that, like, we just can't side with, like, the neo-Nazis in them. We not dealing with y'all like that, right?
There is, if you want the evidence, all the empirical evidence that exists today, as we really ended the show with yesterday, the racism has been institutionalized by the Democratic Party.
Oh, yeah, and it is more alive today than it's ever been. And I say that because of the ways that all the multiple, countless ways they have to communicate. In order to get a audio cut like that or see a video clip like that, the one you just played from Jasmine Crockett back in the day, it would have to make the evening or local news. That's the only way you were going to see it. And I don't know that something like that back in the day would have made the local or evening national news. Probably not on a busy news day. Today, you see it all. Their reach is where they think they have the win. Their reach, in reality, is their weakness.
The three things, as we've stated before, the evidence that the party that has institutionalized hate is identity politics with the Democrats, that the Democrats themselves, number of Democrats over and over again, James Carville, Tim Ryan, just to give you an example of people over the last couple of years that said we have to stop with the identity politics. We have to stop judging people by the groups that they're in and by individuals, which of course we all know is right. Every Democrat knows that that's the main racism, or that's part of the racism of the Democratic Party.
Rahm Emanuel, you could throw in there.
Rahm Emanuel, you could throw him in there.
He said that years ago, and then of course he, came out and talked against the liberal transgender movement recently and all that. So, yeah. And
hesitantly.
Yes. Remember, he said that he was going to, he was going to have to go in witness protection after his comments on that.
Right. But
why is that? Because again, they fear the mob. They fear the far left.
You have the racism of the anti-Semitism that exists primarily in the Democratic Party and has been institutionalized in the Democratic Party. And you have the misogyny, the hatred of women in the radical transgender movement.
Yep.
It all exists. For God's sakes, you have the Democratic Party saying that men are women. And then if you don't agree to it, if you're a young woman that doesn't agree with it, and I use young women because it's been the young athletes, they will threaten you. They will intimidate you. They will threaten you, as we've seen, with violence on college campuses.
Yep.
Across the board, the racism exists inside the Democratic Party, and that's why you have more conservative blacks and more every day. You see it slowly. It's slowly moving. We saw it's moved with Hispanics. They've seen it. And you've seen the slow erosion in the Democratic Party of blacks. I didn't get a chance to listen to it, but I did see there was a debate. It was 20 black conservatives going up against this one liberal black actor, activist, whatever, and they just destroyed her. They absolutely destroyed her. Mm-hmm. And the victim oppressor narrative that comes out of the Democratic Party, and she really had no comebacks in the videos that I saw. Thing is, I can't play some of it because she did curse and stuff. We can't. But she would just say, "What you're saying is false. It's false. It's false. It's not false. Here's the evidence. It's false. It's false. It's false." Could not argue the points that those conservatives who happen to have black skin. God, is this stupid, isn't it? It's just so damn stupid to be.
Exactly.
But the reason you have to put it that way is because that's what you have to do. That's how you have to respond to racists out there. You have to designate exactly and precisely what is going on. And blacks are seeing that they have been betrayed by the Democratic Party, that the Democratic Party has institutionalized the racism through identity politics. They've institutionalized and made it mainstream anti-Semitism, and the hatred of women through the radical transgender movement is as clear. This is the thing, and I'm still upset at Republicans not pounding on this every single day. There isn't one Republican that should ever be on the defensive about being called a sexist, a misogynist, or a racist. You should never let it get to that point. You should be attacking every single day. Now, the public knows it, but you need to be on the attack.
Yeah.
Before they do it, you don't ever have to be on the defensive. You attack and you go right for the political jugular vein.
What is interesting about what Jasmine Crockett said there is right there in the middle, something we have said. Many blacks are very conservative. Mm-hmm. What's different is she's trying to paint this picture like, oh, no, like she's doing a Jedi mind trick. No, we're not going with the Republicans. We're not going, when she knows full well she sees the numbers, and if she doesn't, she's blind. What's different is that the numbers are changing in that demographic. And I think it's part of, what Michael Rappaport said, what was going on in 24 to a large extent. Keep in mind, Barack Obama chastised black men in 2024 for voting for Trump, for supporting Trump. Where in the world do you get off? I'll tell you where. Racismville. That's where they get off the train. That's where they live. That's where every single day they have to live. And they're desperate right now because they do see the numbers changing. They see the numbers changing because of what I said about her comment and the reach that they have. The reach that everybody has in terms of finding information. The American voter has the ability to be the most informed voter of all time. And it's, if you have the will, that's the difference. And if you don't believe the lies, I asked the question several times during the 24 campaign for Democrat rank and file. How much do you actually know? Or how much, more directly, how much of what you believe is from what someone else told you? How much do you do to find the actual truth?
Maureen Dowd was probably right, which she said a few years ago.
Yep.
All of her Democrat friends, when things aren't going that way, they just shut off the news
They just
completely.
shut off the news.
And all they pay attention to slogans, they pay attention to things that they hear, but they're not doing their own research.
Right.
They're just, they're in a, I don't know, they're in a quiet quitting political coma.
Right.
They just,
and otherwise for them, if they think things are going positive for them or their side, they're in this massive groupthink, and all they do is repeat. It's just a massive echo chamber. How much do you actually know? Michael Rappaport, a very liberal activist type Hollywood actor. And then he said, at one point, I looked into what they were saying about Charlottesville, and I realized it was a lie. Then I realized, oh my gosh, they're probably lying about other things. And I did more research and more research and more research. And that's exactly what I'm talking about.
And
you and I have said for years,
furious. Don't
even believe the things that we say. Don't just take what we say for granted. No, it is the truth. And how dare you? Go.
And we're insulted.
And we're
insulted.
Hurt. That's right.
We're just so hurt.
That's right. Stay away from that Google.
We're very sensitive.
But we encourage you to go find the facts. One of the things that we talked about on a debate stage, going back to 2016, with Hillary and Trump on the debate stage, doesn't matter what the questions are asked. You control what you say. Keep throwing everything, the facts about her, keep throwing those out every time. And let's see what the fact checkers remember. I'm old enough to remember fact checkers. I'm old enough to remember when we had fact checkers.
Oh, I got to find the story on Glenn Kessler.
Yeah.
Where he said, well, I don't regret it. I just got I just got this. I just used one particular word that I shouldn't have used, which changed the entire concept. I got mind blank here. The context.
Yeah.
Duh.
Yeah.
That's the word I forget. Context. Jeez. I forgot.
Just a small word.
Exactly. Such a complicated word, but it changed the entire context of the fact check.
Yeah.
And he just sort of blew it off like that was nothing. Well, no, because that word gave the opposite meaning to what you were saying.
Exactly.
I mean, it's just like
exactly. I love when they do. Well, my bad. I just forgot the whole context of it. Well, that's the most important part. It's critical. But that's the thing, is that you have the ability to find the truth on your own. You are the media these days, and if you've got the will, you can find the facts. You can find the truth on your own.
We've got a great show ahead. 866-90-RED-EYE.
Hey there. This is Hope Zavara with Mother Trucker Yoga, and here's your health tip of the day. Healthy driver, healthy diesel, powered by House. Lower back pain is one of the most common complaints amongst truck drivers, with over 50% experiencing it regularly. Let's fix that. Sit up tall in your seat. Inhale and arc your lower back away from the seat, like there's a pin behind you you're trying to avoid. Now exhale, round your back, and tuck your tailbone under, just like the shape of the letter C. Repeat that movement 5, 10, even 15 times until your lower back and hips start to loosen up and feel ready for the road. There you go. Small, simple changes can lead to big results so that you, my friend, can feel good again. Visit mothertruckeryoga.com and houseproducts.com for more tips and support.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. We've got so many audio cuts. In fact, coming up here in a little bit, remember Lindy Lee, who was the Democratic fundraiser?
Yeah.
She went and raised, millions of dollars for the Democratic Party, and after last year, she quit the Democratic Party.
Right.
And you and I look and say, well, how did you switch so quickly? We'll have the audio cut where she said, look, this was actually a years-long process, and she kept believing them and believing them and believing them, and finally it was like, But you see that, you mentioned Michael Rappaport, the comedian actor. Is he a comedian? I saw comedian.
Yeah.
Okay, I saw comedian actor who became furious when he did his own homework. And he went, my God, they were lying to me about everything. Right. And then he's furious. Do you see that it's really fascinating when people leave the Democratic Party or realize that they have, gone along with liberalism for such a long time, and when they reject it, they're furious. I mean, you get the impression they feel so incredibly betrayed that they've been lied to. Yeah. Which, of course, they have been. And there is a passion. There is a passion that comes out of so many people who say, I now reject the Democratic Party and liberalism, and I'm moving more, to the right. And one of the reasons is they lie to me about everything.
Right.
And I can't trust them. And you and I have also said that when it comes to what works, and I think people right now are looking for, a lot of people looking for what works. Let's actually solve, some problems here. And the Republicans are more likely, not in every case, I'm not saying that the Democrats solve problems better than the Republicans. That's not my point. But sometimes when the Democrats are wrong, the Republicans are also wrong. Right, There's not much I can look at the Democratic Party. There's not anything right now that I can tell you. I look at the Democratic Party and say they're doing the right thing here.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, they are so lost as a party. And the New York Times numbers that came out yesterday really, really is interesting. And we'll get to that and more coming up.
Watch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here this morning. I thought, Eric, yesterday was just a fascinating day to sort of look into the crystal ball of where we're going to be going when it comes to not only when it comes to representation and who's going to be able to control Congress. And I'm going by just the numbers here, by the population shifts, and if the Republicans, redistrict and gerrymander like the Democrats have done. There was what was it the other day, that even if nobody redistricts, just because of population shift alone, by 2030, Republicans pick up 10 seats. Right. That's pretty massive. I want to go here first to this was Chris Cillizza, a Democrat, but he was on News Nation, and they were talking about Obama backing the California redistricting plan, and they were already into the discussion saying, look, most of the Democratic states have already been gerrymandered. Republicans really haven't done it like Democrats have, and this is coming again. We all know Cillizza, a Democrat. Here it is.
I mean, it helps, certainly, Gavin Newsom. I honestly think it's kind of a semi-big bet by a guy who we know wants to run for president in 2028 to say, all right, we're going to put this in front of voters. Voters voted for the independent commission that this is going to replace with 61% of the vote in 2010. The independent commission is still popular. Gavin Newsom's going to say, okay, we got to do this because of Trump. Well, okay, now you have Barack Obama. I think that'll help, and it's California. But if you put that map back up, Blake, Mick is right. Like, look at the states, first of all. Ohio and Florida, big states. Indiana and Missouri, you're probably only going to get one more Republican district. Ohio and Florida, you could get more. New York and New Jersey, it is against the state constitution to redraw lines in the middle of the decade. You can change that. And then Mick's point, look, Illinois and Maryland are pretty well gerrymandered already. I mean, I guess you could squeeze a seat out of there, but I just think if this winds up being full-on war, Republicans, if we're just doing pure political calculation, Republicans will gain. There's just more seats that they can gain.
So you've got 10 seats because of population shift. How many you will pick up eventually? I've heard maybe, what was it? I've heard total of between 30 and 40 seats.
Yeah.
That they could pick up combined. I don't know whether that's accurate or not. Because it all depends too on the population shift over the next couple of years. And that's people moving from blue states to red states. That's simply on population alone. But then the story that came out yesterday, the New York Times, the Democratic Party is hemorrhaging support with no end in sight, according to shocking analysis of new voter registration. Fueled by President Donald Trump's gains among men and younger voters and Latinos in 2024, more new voters nationwide chose to be Republicans and Democrats for the first time since 2018. Perhaps more troubling for Democrats, the data suggests Democratic Party activists can no longer rely on the party's methods to reverse this trend, leaving panicked party leaders unsure of how to resurrect the party's electoral prospects. The numbers are staggering. Of the 30 states that track voter registration by political party, Democrats lost ground to Republicans in every single one between 2020 and the 2024 elections, and often by a lot, the report says. That four-year swing toward Republicans adds up to 4.5 million voters, a deep political hole that could take years for Democrats to climb out from. No states red, blue, or purple are immune to the trend. More voters are choosing to be Republicans. All told, Democrats lost about 2.1 million registered voters between 2020 and 2024 elections in 30 states, along with Washington, D.C., that allow people to register with a political party. In the remaining 20 states, voters do not register with a political party. Republicans gained 2.4 million. Many blue states, like massive California, register voters by party, while many red states, including Texas, do not. So the number of nationwide registered voters by party does not tell the full story, but in those 30 states with partisan voter registration, Democrats' 11-point edge over Republicans on Election Day 2020 plummeted to just over 6 points in 2024, an alarming trend for Democrats. I don't want to say the death cycle, this is the death cycle of the Democratic Party, but there seems to be no end to this, said Michael Prusser, director of the Data Science Division for the Decision Desk HQ, told the New York Times. There's no silver lining or cavalry coming across the hill. This is month after month, year after year. More trends point a dire picture for Democrats. By 2024, the Republican Party's share of new registered voters nationwide had overtaken Democrats, rising 9 points compared to 2018, the report details, while Democrats fell by almost 8%. I'd love this here. Identifying the problem is likely to be far easier than fixing it. I love that one because it's identifying the problem is easy. They're nuts on the issues.
Well, and we've been asking what turns it around for the Democrats.
We've been asking that question. What turns it around for the Democrats? What is the issue? There, we've said we talked yesterday about what's his name? I got mind blank. The former advisor, the senior advisor to Trump and Vance, that said you better get prices under control somehow. Mm-hmm. You've got to mitigate this, or there could be a problem. But the fact is, when it comes to the economy, if Republicans get it together, there is no, or inflation, price increases, whatever you want to call it. If they solve that problem, there isn't another issue out there, and that would just be a reaction. And Democrats aren't going to solve if there's an economic problem that's there when Republicans are in. Hypothetically, Democrats aren't going to solve it.
Well, that's the big conundrum that they face on that, is that when the economy was hurt by massive inflation, the Republicans already had a built-in trust by the American voters on the economy. In other words, the voters looked at that and said, well, we know that the Republicans are capable of doing things that are good for the economy. If you're looking by comparison, if there's, again, no relief when it comes to pricing for the American voter, and they say, well, what would their options be? Are they going to trust that the Democratic Party is going to do better? Is the recent burn from just a few years ago, over 9% inflation, a lesson that lasts for a long time? Again, it's not a good thing for the Republicans. It has to be fixed. There are things that have to be done. But is it the same comparison?
Steve Cortez,
yes. Yeah. Is it the same comparison that it has been in the past? I don't know the answer to that question.
Neither do I. I have no idea. I don't have any idea on that particular issue. If the election were held right now, what the difference would be. And it's not a presidential election in 2026.
Right.
It's district by district.
Right. Very different. Turnout is different.
Exactly. Yeah, will there be any motivation for people to go out?
Right.
If you're a Democrat, well, the motivation, if you have fewer registered Democrats and there is no incentive for them to go out because the party, again, is a nightmare on the issues. You know, the thing is that's so easy right now. Vance yesterday basically said, look, the Democrats are crazy on the issues. You hear that all the time now. And I'm glad they do that because nobody is, all you get the response is, well, the Republicans are racist. Mm-hmm. And they're racist against illegals. Illegals need to stay. Stop trying to stomp out crime. Everything that they believe, there is nothing there that they can, even if the Republicans might be, let's say the Republicans are viewed next year as weak on the economy. There's no other issue out there. Right. How can Democrats portray that they would do a better job? Everything
my earlier point.
Right.
Exactly.
Everything that they talk about is insane, and everybody knows
it's a different comparison because the voter knows when the Democrats are in control and the economy is bad. They know that the Republican Party historically can do things to fix the economy. They're capable of it. You can't look at the Democrats and say the same because they're going to say, we're going to spend more money, we're going to spend more money, we're going to spend more money. And they also know, the American people also know that we're pretty much done with handouts. Not that people won't put their hands out for them, but it's not the driver that it used to be because people realize it's not a solution, that it only gets us into further trouble, which means we pay for it in the long run.
I think one thing that, and both you and I have noticed it over the years, being in talk radio as long as we have, I was shocked the other day. I actually got a response from a liberal. I was shocked because the one thing that you and I have seen, and I've seen it on social media, for example, I don't see none of the, and I mean hundreds upon hundreds of acquaintances, some are even friends that were Democrats. You don't hear, you see the organized Democrats on social media. All of my acquaintances, I mean, I look at, and I'm talking hundreds upon hundreds on social media that I know that were promoting Obama like crazy when he was in office, completely quiet. They do not talk about anything, which means, we talk about Maureen Dowd, and she said, well, when things don't go their way, they just hide, they don't listen to anything. Why? If you know you're right, you fight back. If you know you've got the response, you fight back. But the other day, I finally got somebody who messaged me and listened and said, "What do you mean? The crime statistics of these cities in these red states is out of control." And we know that argument. It's a dumb argument because, well, no, they're all Democrat-run cities,
right? Which is something we had already covered.
Right, we'd covered that already, and I'm like, well, we covered that over and over again. It was almost like an act of desperation. But as I'm sinking, my wrist is just above the water, or the molten metal, like Arnold Schwarzenegger in Terminator 2.
Exactly.
Right, exactly. I mean, that's what it is. I got one more thing, one more.
Yeah, before I go, and this is, but it's also someone repeating what they hear from other people.
Right.
They're repeating talking points.
But that was,
and those talking points have been defeated. Again, you have. For the most part, the overwhelming majority of those metro areas are controlled by Democrats.
Yeah. I'm shocked when I hear from a Democrat. Absolutely, because it just doesn't happen anymore at all.
Right.
And they don't have an argument for anything. And like I said, in social media, forget about the response to the show. On social media, these people that were extremely active, you don't hear anything from them. Maybe... Oh, I did see one. I did see one, and this person was like, I knew they were talking about Trump, but they wouldn't say, his name, Trump, but they were railing. And I realized, why are they so angry at Trump? And I realized they work for NPR.
Oh.
866-90-RED-EYE.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So I thought yesterday was an interesting day with all those stories that came out, seemingly all at the same time.
Yeah.
As to, where the country is going politically. And you take all of that, you take the New York Times analysis of it, and you look at redistricting and the population shifts. I'm not going to say what the Democrats said back in, 2016?
Yeah.
Republicans may never win again.
Yeah.
But it looks like a tough go for Democrats over the next decade.
Yeah, how do you stop this kind of hemorrhaging?
Yeah.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. So I'm reading here, and I forgot who he was for a moment. Canadian comedian Dave Foley.
Oh, yeah.
Was on a CNN podcast and unloaded on Trump supporters, calling them fascist, uneducated, and people who would support deporting people to 1939 Germany. Now, see, I know him as being the program director on News Radio.
Yeah,
I didn't even recognize him with this picture here in Breitbart with his gray hair. He also ranted about the quote Trump supporters as sub-breed.
Well, that'll get get those folks in your corner real quick, right?
Are you hurt? I'm so sensitive to that type of criticism.
Maybe if it was somebody else from News Radio, but not Dave Foley.
Right.
That didn't hurt. Maybe if it was Joe Rogan.
Yes. Hey, Joe, comment. The thing is,
if it were Phil Hartman, it definitely would have hurt.
The funny thing is, I just don't relate old Joe Rogan to young Joe Rogan in News Radio. They're almost like two. I mean, he's playing a character, of course, but they even look like two different people completely because he's got hair.
My wife said a few months ago, Joe Rogan used to be attractive. I guess she saw a picture from back in the day from News Radio or whatever. He was really cute back in the day. I was like, yeah, all right. I mean, we all grow old. But she goes, yeah, but he looks so different. I said, well, he's working out differently.
Hey, I forgot. I don't think I told you. I forgot to tell you. I might as well tell you on the radio.
What?
Remember when I was in, this was back about a year and a half ago, when I happened to get that little, and it was completely by accident, that little extra part, in that independent movie, independent TV series,
right?
They're selling it now, and it was funny because it was at they were doing it at the coffee shop, and I got an invite, through email, because I go in there and say, hey, we're doing a little, there's an independent movie being filmed here if you want to come see it. And it was like a Friday night, and I was like, all right. And I told him, yeah, I'll be there. And I know the people that run it. And I said, yeah, I'll show up. Well, I decided to take a nap, and I woke up, and it was like, I don't know, 10 after 6. Like, I don't want to go. I didn't care about this. I went, okay, I promised. And I'm dragging. I mean, it's just, I normally don't take a nap, like that on a Friday night.
Right.
So I wake up, I'm just dragging. You know, I'm like, well, okay, I'll go have a cup of coffee. Mm-hmm. An hour later, I'm in a scene. I remember thinking, how the hell did this happen? I was sleeping an hour ago. Next thing,
just comfortable on the couch.
Gary, you want a little bit part? It's actually a speaking part. Just sit here and it's I think it's a 5-part series called a family thing. It's a mob movie, or mob thing,
right?
And so I don't know whether my part's going to be in it or not, but the producer of that film, of that, I keep saying film, that future TV series called me. We actually had about, maybe about 9 months ago. He just called me one day and said, want to have coffee? And we just sat and met at the coffee shop and talked life. It was great. Talked life, careers, everything else. You know, I really didn't know him until I saw him that night. He directed me, and we talked a little bit, and we exchanged numbers, and he called me. And then about 3 weeks ago, he's doing a mockumentary on a mob, like Spinal Tap.
Right, yeah.
And there's doing the trailer of it. And he always had this thing when he saw me. He always had this thing. He wasn't able to work it into the first one where I was an Irish mobster.
All right.
And so apparently he's got a new project that he wants to do, but they always do trailers first and promote the daylights out of it before they even start production of it. So he wants me to be an Irish mobster, in just probably a minute or two trailer. So it's just they want to film, and they filmed a bunch of scenes last week, and I was out of town, and so we're supposed to do it this Saturday.
Right.
And don't worry, it's unpaid. I'm not changing careers. It's just for the fun of it. It's
right.
The guy's a cool guy, and I'm really interested. And I told him, I said, this is just volunteer stuff. I'll talk about it on the radio a little bit, and it's just for a little bit of fun. And but I was really impressed by how small the crew is to make independent stuff these days.
These days, it's with what they have in equipment. I mean, you can get down to bare bones.
Oh, unbelievable! I
now everyone on the set is doing a ton of work, but yeah, you can do a lot with a few people.
So I completely forgot to tell you about it.
Yeah,
and so I'm. I think my name is Mickey.
All right,
and I forgot though. They call me the nickname because see, I'm actually working for the Sicilian mob. So I'm not a mate.
So you're an Italian working for
no
this. I mean, you're an Irish guy working for an Italian mob.
Yes.
All right.
Yes. And I know there's something about he wanted me. I don't know. It could completely change when I go in there this Saturday. But you know one of the reasons he wants me in it? They want, just like Spinal Tap. And the Spinal Tap 2 is coming out?
Yeah.
And, they did Spinal Tap 1. A lot of it was ad lib.
Right.
It wasn't scripted.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't want this mockumentary of the mob, a fake documentary. He doesn't want it scripted. He wants a general outline, and then you just go with it. And I guess he figured since I do that, even though I'm not a professional actor, did a little bit tiny bit in high school. I mean, just a tiny bit. He said, no, you know how to follow directions. He goes, you seem to have no problem just being thrown in there that night. It's like, I was half asleep.
Well, if it goes badly, who cares, right?
Yeah, who cares?
Yeah.
Is it gonna ruin this career?
Right.
Oh, we're gonna listen to McNamara, but he failed in that independent movie.
New York Post talk show host destroys an entire movie.
Drudge.
With one line.
Drudge.
Yeah.
McNamara will not win the Academy Award this year.
There will be no trophies for McNamara. And no red carpet.
But he's just an amazing guy because when I first met him, he talks so fast that you think the initial reaction, which is wrong, is that, okay, this guy's a BSer.
Mm-hmm.
and it's not. He just thinks so quick.
Right.
He's just thinking so quick, and he can't at times keep up to how fast his mind is going. So he talks faster, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, boom. All right, here's where we go. Over here, camera, this. Okay, shoot it. And you're like, whoa. Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're not a BSer. This guy's just extremely intelligent, and he thinks extremely quick. You saw that, what's his name from Yellowstone? Is there, you hear about the huge studio they're building?
Yeah, Taylor Sheridan.
Yeah, Taylor Sheridan here in Texas.
Yeah, it's right here in North Fort Worth.
Yeah.
It's a massive, massive studio.
And they're building one south. It's not him, but another one down in Mansfield, Texas.
Yeah.
That's the thing about, and all these independent films, none of them have an agenda.
No.
They don't have a political agenda.
Right.
It's just, hey, let's do this, let's entertain. I really wonder, because it's becoming massive in North Texas. You're talking about massive studios here for Taylor Sheridan.
Well, he's been shooting in Fort Worth and
they're shooting in Ferris.
And Landman with Billy Bob Thornton and that series for Paramount Plus, and
there's another series I just saw tonight in Ferris, which is down, was it I-45?
Right. Yeah. And there's just so much great scenery, that you can have. California has great scenery. The problem with California is that you have so much regulation. You also have to deal with, unions and everything else. It becomes very expensive very quickly. But Texas, New Mexico. If you want some really rustic outdoor shots, there's a lot of land. There's a lot of choices. And, they're taking advantage of that. And also, you can probably find, a great deal of the labor that goes into it fairly cheaply. At least less expensive than you would out in California or in Hollywood. But why limit yourself to one state in the first place? Why limit yourself to just one thing? Number one, do you need the studio? Back when it was, okay, the studios were only there and no one was going to build a new studio, that's one thing. Those sets where I don't know how many sitcoms and TV shows were made. All right, well, they're already set up for that. You're not going to change that. But for exterior shots, and then you look at, all right, if we invest in studios here, we can do interior shots. You can create a bunch of stuff where it's less expensive. One of the things right now that we're seeing over and over again, you see it in media where they can't afford, Stephen Colbert. Hollywood can't afford to be spending hundreds of millions of dollars on every single production. The question is, can you get great production for a fraction of that budget? And the answer is yes, you can.
I remember when my brother was visiting about a year and a half ago, and we went down to the historic part of Waxahachie, Texas, which is probably 20 miles south of the Dallas suburbs,
right?
And we're sitting there walking downtown, and my brother goes, "That place, that was in Walker, Texas Ranger." And I looked, it was the Ellis County Courthouse.
Yeah.
And I looked and I went, yeah, because my parents whenever I used to visit my parents, they used to watch it constantly. They had it on all the time.
A lot of the shots just a mile and a half from here, from our studios.
Was that in some of the industrial park stuff that they did?
It was, actually, I think they used the city hall.
Oh,
that's a couple of miles
did they?
away from here,
okay.
I think.
Yeah. But it was funny because my brother knows, because that was in Walker, Texas Ranger.
Yeah.
And I looked, when I saw it, I went, oh my, that's it.
Yeah.
The thing is that you do have, then I looked it up and it was true that it had been, but a lot of the Texas courthouses, especially in small towns, look the same.
Right.
Very majestic. You see it and you're like, that's Law and Order.
Right, exactly. Yeah. It's, but I love that. I love, the fact that, there's so much, Georgia's one of those other states that has, great, a ton of opportunity in terms of, creating stuff. But Texas is also centrally located.
I guess my question would be, seeing this, and I just saw about the new one for Taylor Sheridan just the other day, and I'm just like, how long is Hollywood going to last? You don't have to film there. There's a ton of money that people know that they can put into films and make that doesn't have to go by even the union regulations.
A lot of actors also don't live there.
They don't want to live there.
Right.
That's another great point.
And so they'd rather, many of them, a number of them have moved to other states. A few of them, a handful of them, to Austin and the hill country of Texas and everything else.
And already, you do have a lot of producers and directors that don't want to film in it. They want to be able to get away from the bosses in Hollywood. So their dailies aren't scrutinized.
Right.
And the head of the film studios down there screaming at you after they look at the dailies saying, we don't like this.
Right. Well, when you've got someone like a Taylor Sheridan who knows exactly what he's doing. Knows exactly what he wants. He writes all the words, all the scripts, and he knows exactly what he wants. You let him do what he does. He's got a history of success. You let him do what he does, and I think, again, he knows Texas, he's from here. And I think there's just, again, a lot of great opportunity for that. And I think for those of us that say, you know what, we'd like some entertainment. We just don't want all the woke stuff. We don't want the message entertainment. Just give me something that's entertaining. I want a nice movie night. I want a cool movie to watch. I don't want somebody preaching to me through that movie.
If I just was 15 minutes earlier when I visited a few years ago at the Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo, my buddy Buck Taylor, great, legendary character actor, Gunsmoke, Tombstone, everything. And when I walked up, he goes, "Oh, damn, Gary, you just missed Taylor Sheridan. Man, I'd love you to meet him. I might not be having to deal with you."
I'm pretty sure you would. You got to consider the fact that he saw you coming. Maybe.
866.
He's running that way.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Just because idling is common doesn't make it smart. Idling a diesel uses about a gallon of fuel per hour, which can cost you about $180 per week at $4.50 per gallon if your truck idles 8 hours a day. Idling easily can cost you a few thousand more in fuel alone per year, not including the added engine maintenance expense that results from excessive idling, harder on your truck's engine than highway driving. In addition to operating costs, many governments impose no idling laws and regulations with fines as high as $25,000. Instead, there are many alternatives. An extra blanket for cold temperatures, window screens for when the weather is warm, bunk heaters, and various auxiliary power unit options abound in this day and age too, many powered just by batteries. Otherwise, diesel and gas gensets burn far less fuel than your truck's engine. Research options to find your fit. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more details on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Coming up, just a continuation of the all the different news yesterday, and some of the polling out there, and some of the actual analysis of where people are moving and how people are registering. And I thought it was amazing yesterday that was the one day where I went, wow, you can actually do an entire show on where this nation is going politically based on all the news from yesterday. So we'll continue with that. And a couple of polls. Why polls that came out yesterday might have been different than polls that came out in the past.
Okay.
I think it's because Trump's name was attached to it.
All right.
Tell your friends. We're here nightly. Eric Harley and Gary McNamara on Red Eye Radio.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when you choose. This is the time of the year, of course. I'm obsessed with hurricanes. So,
well,
during the show, I just did it.
It is hurricane season.
I did it during the break again. It was like, okay, where's Aaron going? And then that disturbance that was following right behind it, you're thinking, okay, all right, where's this going to go? And now that seems to be the projection of that is turning north also. And then the third one behind that, they say is going to flame out. So,
Yeah, I like the headline at weather.com. Aaron is not alone.
I didn't see that.
Yeah. Aaron is not alone.
We've got to have... let's personalize the drama.
Yeah. Now, I gave it that tone. It could have been, well, Aaron is not alone. I don't know what inflection they meant.
It's all in how you say it.
Yeah.
So yesterday was a fascinating day with the analysis from the New York Times looking at voter registration, that there's been a shift of 4.5 million votes from Democrats towards Republicans. That was from 20 to 24. Now, I just wonder what it's been since Trump has become president, just because the thing is, it's not, I really think that Trump is a known quantity already. I think that because you've got that small bullhorn from the media that screams Nazi, 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 Nazi every day, that what they fail to analyze is the fact that it's the Democrats that are really pulling down the numbers.
Yeah.
Because they're nuts.
Yeah.
And so you see that, you see the redistricting and the analysis. The analysis has been completely consistent, hasn't it? On that if Republicans and Democrats go at it to redistrict, Republicans are going to pick up seats. And just because of the population shift, it's another 10 seats for Republicans by 2030. That is unbelievable. When you put all of those together, that's mind-boggling in American politics. It really is that kind of shift. But it's also mind-boggling that you have a party that cannot tell you what they truly believe. And we had a long talk on this yesterday. We've had a long talk about this for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
That, people don't know where the Democrats stand, and the Democrat Party doesn't know where they stand. Yeah, they do. Everybody knows where they stand. What they're asking, the question is, are you going to stand for something that's sane?
Well, the question is, how do you market it? How do you make that work as a brand? Because the Democratic Party as a brand up to a point was, we're all about the middle class, the blue-collar worker, blah, blah, blah. What is the brand now?
1970s. early 1970s. I'm a teenager. I can still remember my uncles that worked for the United Auto Workers.
Yeah.
They were probably voting Democrat, but were fiscal conservatives. That's when you actually had, if, for example, when I read Tim Russard's book, and Tim Russard grew up just a few miles from me, just a couple of years older than me, and he talked about his father being a South Buffalo Democrat, which the South Buffalo Democrat was viewed probably up until you might be able to go as far as the 90s as more conservative.
And Tim Russard's father was very real, unlike the Baileys. When Tim Russard talked about his dad, it was a real person.
Well, and I think I told you when I read the book. I was in Dallas when I read the book, and he talked a lot about his father and everything else. But he said his father had a ton of conservative traits to him. But when I read the book, that was my youth. He didn't grow up far away from me, so the things that he experienced were exactly the same things that I experienced. And I remember writing to him on a Saturday morning. There was an email you could write to him. So Sunday, he'd done Meet the Press. And I wrote to him. 15 minutes later, he responded, thanking me. I'm like, wow, that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But and so they could sell something. They were able to sell something. But I remember my uncles telling me, I heard it all the time from them. Republicans are for the rich. Democrats are for the working guy.
Right.
That was a great slogan to have to keep in power.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. No, it's branding. It's what you want, and it's also simple branding. But they could demonstrate it on the campaign trail. They could demonstrate it in real time in multiple ways. Now, also the advantage was back in the day, you didn't have things like those, pesky little details getting in the way like today. I mentioned earlier the reach that they all have. Well, we all have that kind of reach. In other words, being able to access information. They're able to reach us as an audience, potentially, through social media 24/7. But we're able to reach information to find the truth. So, but back then, if you set something in motion, it kind of remained that way until something else in the news cycle, the morning paper, the evening paper, or the evening news, or local news, might change that. But you could actively get out there and say, we're for the working guy. We're for the unions. We're going to help. We're for those that are working harder and making the rich people richer. And, they got away with that for the longest time. They won those votes for the longest time. That was very effective branding. The change started to come about. Really, before Obama, but Obama kind of catapulted it in introducing, this is why they thought, he's got all these new ideas. Well, no, they're not new ideas. There aren't really any new ideas. He's just talking about them in a way that the party wouldn't talk about them before, when he started talking about redistributive rights, cap and trade, climate change stuff, and stuff that we've mentioned. It catapulted it into this mode where, okay, now we're on this level and we have to keep up with that. We have to maintain that level in order to keep this new brand going.
When I was, as I said, my experience, and again, I come from a family. My father was always voting Republican from what I know. But my grandfather immigrated from Canada here. I think it was probably, I'm going to guess maybe 1911, 1912. And he came here because of the discrimination of Irish Catholics in Toronto, which I didn't even know till a decade ago. And my nephew told me, because my father told him, and my father never told me that. And I said, Gramps, when he was alive, he never told me that. Dad, he goes, he never talked about the past. He looked towards the future. And I went, oh, okay, that's our family. It really is. I mean, that's our family. There's not much victim mentality. Or, my grandfather never said, well, I was oppressed, so he looked to the future. But my grandfather came over here, and the town that I grew up in was full Republican. And back then it was even more Republican. And when he came and settled in that town, he just said, the Democratic Party didn't even exist. And he said there needs to be two parties in this town. So he, helped did that and was, a member of the Democrat Party. Whenever I asked my father, would he be this goes back to after he died, and this would have been in the 80s, and then in the 90s, would grandfather be a Democrat today? And he goes, absolutely not. In fact, Roe v. Wade changed him completely. That's what changed my grandfather. So you had, and we probably still are today. There's probably, if you look at all the cousins, and there was over 50, it would probably be, I'm going to guess, might be 55-45 more conservative, for my family. But it was that, the messaging of the Democrats was Republicans are for the rich, Democrats are for the working guy. It was about the Bill of Rights from Democrats, always promoting no censoring, freedom of speech.
Yeah.
All of the individual rights. And then in the 80s is when I started, for example, hearing Dershowitz defending, everybody in the Bill of Rights. And there was, the big, I remember the Nazis marching in Skokie. That was a big issue. Flag burning came along in the late 80s. But then where I saw the change in the Democratic Party was at the infancy of new modern talk radio that really began on a national scale in 88 when Rush came along, and then less than a year later by 89 I was in talk radio. And that's when I started paying attention, and I saw the Democrats on race, and you saw the identity politics. And I've always said I believe that the modern identity politics movement, at least from my point of view, because our industry dealt with it, there were a ton of people that got into local talk radio at that point. There was a point where there used to be a talk radio group, and we'd all gather together, and there was a camaraderie. It didn't matter whether you were liberal or Democrat or Republican, whatever. There was a camaraderie that we're all in talk radio.
Yeah.
There was a great camaraderie, and some of the late night cocktail sessions got really interesting at times. But it was when I saw at that point where conservative blacks that had become talk show hosts were being eviscerated by the Democratic Party as being betraying their race. To me, that's when I think the overall messaging that I saw from the Democrats started to change. And it just kept evolving and evolving to the point of today with identity politics, the anti-Semitism. I mean, the fact that they have become anti-Israel and anti-Semitic. And by the way, there's been a lot of talk, article in National Review yesterday. Mark Levin talked about it. I saw him post on X. And it was about, where's all the stuff about the genocide of the Israelis?
Right.
What happened to that?
Right.
It was all false. It wasn't happening. The media was promoting falsehoods. And then when we started seeing that happening, I knew that when Democrats were coming out and calling conservative black talk show hosts Uncle Toms.
Yeah.
At that point, I just went, my God, they're judging people by groups. and not individuals. I thought they had marketed themselves as being for the Bill of Rights and no censoring and no racism. I thought they had gone beyond where they were in Jim Crow and slavery, and there was an effort to do it. And I realized at that point that there really wasn't. And so that's really when I look at that and where they are today, because it's nuts. And I want to play this audio cut here. Do I have time? No, we'll play it coming up here in a little bit because Scott Jennings hit it big time. The problem with the Democrats yesterday. We've said it, but he said it in his own way, which was great. All coming up, 866-98 Red Eye.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. It was out yesterday. I saw it yesterday. The Pew Research Center that was actually done a couple of years ago that found that the tremendous amount of young liberals who believe they have mental illness, and it's mind-boggling the number. And you say, what in the hell is that about? Because we know it's not true.
Yeah,
we know it's not. We know when you talk about mental illness. We know it doesn't affect 50% or 40 to 50% of any demographic.
Right.
So why do they believe they're mentally ill?
Right. Is it this age of self-diagnosis, which is most often improper self-diagnosis, where someone says, I think I have a mental illness. I think we may be close to something.
We'll get to that.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
We had rain yesterday, which was great, and we've got some cooler temperatures moving in the next week. Next week, it could be down to the lower 80s here in Texas.
Maybe there's something to this whole climate change thing.
Yes, it's getting colder. Back to global cooling. Well, we do know because of the axis of the Earth and the relationship to the moon and all that other neat stuff, all the physics, that we will eventually enter another ice age. What is it, 6 to 10,000 years from now?
I'm hoping it's sooner.
Well, that's a good thing because then climate change will definitely solve the debt problem.
Oh, yeah. We won't have to worry about the debt. Not at all.
I can laugh about it now. I can see somebody 8,000 years from now. Well, the Red Eye Radio's still on their app. And
the app is still running.
And they're joking about this whole climate change thing, saying it'll solve the debt problem. They were implying 8,000 years ago we're all going to be dead soon.
And we're not dead. We sure are cold.
Uh-oh. The helicopters are falling from the sky.
Well, you talk about people moving from other states. They'll be migrating south for sure.
What's the movie again? What was that called where the helicopters are falling?
The Day After Tomorrow.
The Day After Tomorrow, yeah. But they were, remember? Everybody moved to Central America?
Yeah.
They had set up the White House in Central America.
Yeah. A friend of mine was a stunt driver in that tornado scene in Los Angeles.
Oh, yeah.
He said he got a last-minute call. So we need somebody to drive an ambulance or something. I think it was an ambulance. And I'm like, all right.
Well, that sort of happened in Fort Worth back in 2000. Remember that?
Yeah. Wasn't quite as...
the buildings.
It was actually very dramatic because it was real.
Yeah.
When you're watching a movie, you're going, oh, this is really wild, but I know it's not real. When we were watching it play out on in Fort Worth years ago, it was very real, scary.
You know, the funny thing is, I was still in Oregon, and I had, let me see, that was March, right? Yeah, I had my interview already. And it was like the week after I had my interview when that happened. And I was supposed to call Bob, remember our former boss, supposed to call him on that day. And I was going to call him, and I saw the tornadoes going through Fort Worth. So I didn't call him, figuring he's going to be busy, and I'll call him give him a couple of days, because it's like you just don't see that. I called him a couple of days later. Thought you were going to call me 2 days ago. Now, I was friends with him, so he was harassing me on it. So, but it was still like I said, you had a tornado going through Fort Worth, downtown. I figured you might be a little busy to take my call.
My mom called me one time during a tornado warning. And the sirens were going off in our neighborhood, but I was watching television and knew that it was east of us, but I was still getting in the mode of getting in the interior closet. My mom calls, and I don't want to worry her. Well, what's going on? Not much. Sirens in the background. She couldn't, thank goodness, couldn't hear those sirens, but our tornado sirens were going off. And so that's something you take very, very seriously. And when it comes to getting what are we supposed to have? 83 for the high one day next week?
Yes.
First of all, I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
Because right now it's actually 83 degrees.
Yeah, it is.
At 2 o'clock in the morning.
But 1 o'clock in the afternoon yesterday, 1 to 1:30, I went outside. I went, my God, it's not 80 yet. And it was 75.
Yeah.
Like at 1:30.
In the rain.
In the rain, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa. And then as soon as the sun came out, it went up to like 93. It didn't take long.
Yeah, and very humid.
Yes, very, very humid because of the water on the ground already.
Yeah, but I'll take a cool down in August anytime in Texas.
But yeah,
anytime.
Until it happens, though. I remember the hottest, one of the hottest days ever, and I think it was 110 to 112. And I just moved here, and it was Labor Day weekend of 2000. And I was, I believe it was 2000, yeah. And I was golfing with some buddies. And we walked. That was back in the days when I would walk with my golf clubs on my back. We don't do that anymore.
Yeah, no.
Either I have the electric or preferably the gas chauffeur, also known as a golf cart, or I don't go. We got to like the 15th hole. We couldn't do it. I couldn't, the drinking fountains were there and the cart lady was coming around with ice. It didn't matter. We couldn't, we could not handle the heat. And there is a wooded golf course. So we walked in the woods all the way back up. One of the toughest walks I've experienced a lot in my life, but that walk, which was only about 1,500 feet back to our cars and the clubhouse, was one of the toughest walks ever. Heat kills.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to be very careful.
But we don't do that today. But I saw this yesterday, and I did some research on it because I just saw it had gone viral. About 43% of young liberal women have self-diagnosed themselves as having mental illness. And there's actually two polls, one that came out, two studies that came out. One was a national telephone and online survey by Rasmussen Reports and the Great American Show that was done this year. And then the other was the Pew Research report that came out in 2000. It's amazing how consistent it is in that time period. A Pew Research Center study conducted in 2020 found that more than 50% of white liberal women under the age of 30 reported having some sort of mental health condition. 43% of young liberals self-identifying as having a mental illness. Wow. Move up now to where we are today. Let me get it here. And this was, again, the Rasmussen Reports study that was done. This was a survey done May 27th through June 3rd by Rasmussen Reports, the Great American Show, they call it. And this one showed that younger Americans are much more likely than elders to report mental health issues. 20% of all people say that in the past year they've sought counseling or mental health treatment from a therapist. Okay.
All right.
Among those who've gotten counseling or treatment in the past year, 68% are currently taking one or more prescription drugs for a mental health problem. Younger Americans are much more likely than their elders to report mental health issues. 29% of adults under 40 have sought counseling or mental health treatment from a therapist in the past year, compared to just 18% of those ages 40 to 64, and just 3% of Americans 65 and older. See, when you get to be my age, it's like, I ain't going to spend that money on any mental health care. I want beer. No, more women than men say that a doctor has diagnosed them with a mental health condition. More than 35% of women under the age of 40 have had such a diagnosis. 31% of women under the age of 40 have sought counseling for mental health treatment from a therapist in the past year. Liberals are more likely than conservatives or moderates to say they have mental health issues. This is especially true with liberal women. 34% of whom say a doctor has diagnosed them with a mental health condition, 29% of whom are currently taking one or more prescription drugs for a mental health problem. 43% of liberals under the age of 40 say a doctor has diagnosed them with a mental health condition. That's unbelievable. That's absolutely unbelievable.
So there's so many things at work here. The question would be, is there something at the basis of what appears to be a mental health crisis? Are too many doctors quick to diagnose so that they can prescribe? If it's starting on the first one, a true mental health crisis, then what would be the cause of it?
So I said, okay, let me find a clinical psychologist out there that we all know who has studied this. Mm-hmm. So I went to Jordan Peterson. Mm-hmm. Peterson has linked liberalism, particularly in younger generations and women, to a higher likelihood of mental health struggles. He stated that liberals, particularly young liberal women that have the highest rates of any demographic, exhibit higher rates of depression and anxiety. Potential explanations, he suggests this may be due to factors like engagement with social justice issues and constant consumption of related news, potentially increasing emotional stress. possible underlying, you can't judge a group. It has to be an individual. I mean, that's how you do it. But that's why everything is possible. Possible underlying personality traits that might make liberals more vulnerable to the negative impacts of social media use and political polarization. Belief systems that may lead individuals to respond to hardships in ways detrimental to their well-being. Wow.
Well, okay. So we look at the COVID years, right? There was a huge surge, a real mental health crisis for adolescent women. And you have to ask, all right, what's behind that? Well, I'm not a doctor. I don't have a study in front of me, but certainly what could have made a significant impact on mental health of adolescent women would be over and over again repeating that if you breathe on someone, they could die. If they breathe on you, you could die. And this thing that started with, remember, hey, we just need a few days to flatten the curve. And then all of a sudden it was full on. You can't go outside. You can't leave the house. Only one person can leave the house. You got to wear a mask. If you're not wearing a mask, you're in danger. If someone else isn't wearing a mask, they're a danger to you. And all of these things, this massive amount, and it was global, overstimulation is quite the opposite of what adolescents require, what all children require. And that is assurance from adults that everything is going to be okay and that they're going to be safe. So then you apply that to the political spectrum. You're repeating over and over again that the guy in the White House is Hitler, that he is capable, because what that means, he is not only capable, but inclined to commit ethnic cleansing, to kill millions of people. There are some who actually believe that to be the truth.
Yeah, if you keep repeating something, you're going to have some people that agree to it. You and I talk about, we've talked about this many times before, when you're brainwashed, we've said one of the worst things that Democrats and liberals do is tell young people they don't have a chance to make it, that you're a victim and you're always going to be a victim, and the oppressor is always going to be the oppressor. You give people no hope. You and I go back to the group of young women that were at the White House, remember? During, was that Obama or Biden? It had to be Biden. And they were being asked about, what their plans were, what they were going to do in college. They said, we don't care about college. We're not going to be around. We're all going to be dead because of climate change. Remember that?
Right.
And we went, who the hell tells that to young people? Who in the hell sends that message? Bernie Sanders. You and I hit this after the big Occupy Wall Street, where he was telling young people, you can't make it because billionaires have made it, where you can't make it in life.
Right.
And we went, who the hell does that? How evil is that for people to do that? To not say, wait a minute, you live in a free society. Nothing's going to be handed to you. Don't expect it to be handed to you. And Bernie Sanders is saying, if it's not handed to you, well, then you can't make it.
Right.
You can't make it. If constantly young people in the Democratic Party, you're a victim, you're a victim, you're a victim, you're a victim, you don't have any power yourself. Your free choice to do things doesn't matter. What you decide to do doesn't matter. Everything's stacked against you. You can't make it. When you hear that from your parents, your church, your neighborhood, That's the culture that you grow up in. What in the hell does that do to the human mind?
Well, certainly for younger individuals, it has a greater impact, and that is the learned behavior. It's coming from adults.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Yeah, just fascinating. And the thing is, both in the Rasmussen and the Pew Research poll, which the Pew Research poll said 43% of liberal women under the age of 30 have self-diagnosed themselves with mental illness, and it's 43% in the poll of Rasmussen under 40, both men and women that say they're liberal, that say they've self-diagnosed themselves also with having mental illness, as well as their doctors.
Right.
And you ask, how in the world can that be? Because certainly in the general population, that is not. You don't have mental illness in that great a number of people. You may have some character flaws. You may have some paranoid thoughts. You may have unreasonable fears, but is it actually mental illness? And if it is, should there be more of a discussion on scaring the hell out of young people that they're doomed from the very beginning of their life?
Right.
Listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Now, the interesting thing about both of those polls there that we talked about is these are people that are asked. These are people that are asked, are you a Democrat? Yes. What do you believe in? And they do the polling and say, do you believe that, you have some form of mental illness? They're self-diagnosing in both the Pew poll and the Rasmussen poll.
Right.
They both agree, yes. So 43% in the Rasmussen poll, self-diagnosed. 43% under the age of 40, both sexes. In the Pew Research poll, taken in 2020, 43% of young women, and I believe in the Rasmussen it was 50% of young women that are liberal, under 40.
Right.
So amazingly consistent, and which means you have to ask yourself, what type of mental illness is it before you can come to, any type of conclusion. And you have to look at the individual. How did they get here? What do they actually believe? What have they been diagnosed with? What do they actually believe that they have? Because there's a large variety of different mental illnesses out there.
Well, when it comes to mental illness, there's quite the spectrum.
Yeah.
And it seems to be an ever-growing spectrum. I'm not an expert. I don't define what qualifies as a mental illness, but there's certainly also and we've seen this trend over the years, a growing tendency to prescribe medications.
Right.
And I think that's been going on for a long, long time. The question is, if you're self-diagnosing, how accurate is it? And again, what do you consider to be a mental health issue? What do you qualify as a mental health issue?
If you look at it, specifically clinically, clinical depression, anxiety disorder, bipolar disorder, dementia, attention disorder, schizophrenia, obsessive compulsive, post-traumatic stress. Just some of them on there. Now, I knew somebody who was young and was always on medication for their attention problem and anxiety, constantly on medication. They got into business, and they actually became a professional in business. And this is a couple of years later. And I asked her, I said, "You still on the medication?" She goes, "No, there was nothing wrong with me. That was an excuse." So what are you talking about? She said, "I don't have anything. I'm fine. I stopped taking the medication. I'm fine. There was nothing wrong with me. I used it as an excuse." I'm not indicating that I'm not, questioning anybody who says they have mental illness and has been diagnosed by a professional. I'm just saying that surprised the hell out of me when she said that to me. She goes, "Nah, it was just an excuse," and never really talked about it again, and she's doing fine. This is like 10 years ago she told me that. And she's doing absolutely fantastic. And so you look at it, there's no way that I believe that in the general population that you have 43 or 50% of women that have a mental illness. I don't buy that. I don't buy it. Do people have challenges and problems? Can grief at times seem like a mental illness? I've always talked about it, and part of it's serious. The only time I've ever questioned my sanity a little bit was because I couldn't hit the ball with the stick. And I've always said I had the rage of a serial killer directed at myself. Now, that isn't normal to have that type of competitiveness. It's normal to have competitiveness and lose your temper. I thought, okay, I'm going a little bit overboard. Did I see a mental health professional? No. I just quit for a while, did other sports, and said, you need to get your act together. And now I really enjoy golf, and I never get angry. That was a bad character trait on my part.
Right.
And I, and didn't need to do anything in order to solve it. But it was, I would be angry for hours. And I remember one time saying, I need to stop this. I really need to stop this.
Well, and I think again, there are times when you go through things. There are things in life that we all go through.
Yes.
Does it qualify as a mental health issue
or a mental illness?
Yeah. Okay. To the point of being a mental illness. Can you say that, well, the person is suffering from a temporary mental illness because they're grieving the loss of a loved one? That's not the same as depression.
Right.
And you can say, all right, there's a lot more agitation in my life. And then you get to the basis of it. And if it's, I don't know, job related, finance related, whatever it might be, there are these pressures on you, and all of a sudden you're not dealing with things well. Well, there's a basis to it. Is that a mental illness, or is that situational? Because we all have situational issues. There's not a person that doesn't. There are things that are going to affect you mentally every day.
In a very negative way, yeah.
And so is it to the point of, again, the question would be, are we looking at a situation where too many people are too quick to go to their doctor and say, hey, this is going on with me and I need something to deal with it, or I need to deal with it, I need to go to therapy to deal with it? There's nothing wrong with having a conversation. The question would be, what comes of that conversation? If you're talking about therapy, what comes of that conversation, and what truly constitutes a mental illness?
I do have to ask the question, though, because somebody wrote then, well, preferred pronouns are proof of a mental illness. There are only two genders. Men can't get pregnant, and all that. And that was one of the responses to what I saw on the internet on social media when I saw this. And they do have a point. If you really don't believe it, but you're saying it to push a political narrative, that may be lying. Oh, by the way, when I came in, the last words I heard before I left the house and turned on the TV, Jerry, it's not a lie if you believe it. That was the last thing Seinfeld was on, and I had to wait for that. I was like, I can't go. This is the episode where George says that. I have to watch this. But when you look at how many, I have to ask this question. If you have, and we have seen the crazed people out there that seem like they're delusional, and we wonder whether it's performative protesting. They're just doing it in order to get a reaction. Are all of them? Or have they been so brainwashed from the time that they've been a child by their environment that their delusion is really their reality? I'm asking it as a question. I would ask that if Jordan Peterson was here, is that happening? Because are there people that actually believe that a man can be a woman because the man says they are?
And beyond that, and within that same group, the question would be, too, we go back to the 9 lawmakers, 8 of whom could not or would not give their names to Axios, because they feared that their constituents in their district were going to be angry with them when they told Axios, these people are out for blood. They want blood.
Yeah.
The point being, the pressure coming, not, set aside the I think Trump is Hitler part of it. I think my own side will come at me if I'm not an activist, if I'm not, and remember, silence is violence. If I'm not doing my part, if I don't look as concerned or more concerned, angrier, more upset than the next person, if I don't rise to that level every day, they'll come after me.
I've always, you and I, over the last, especially 5 years, all the different podcasts that we watch on YouTube, we both pay not to get the commercials. So we love watching it. And you and I have had the discussion. I think we probably had it on the air. Not often. I know we've had it off the air. I'm always amazed by the number of people in Hollywood who are doing podcasts that frequently mention their therapist.
Yeah.
To the point where it's, when I watch any liberal, and they're talking about their life, it's like 90% of them talk about their therapist.
Right.
And I always say to myself, is this normal? Are they real? Do they really need a therapist? Is it I don't know, some sort of, bizarro virtue signaling? What is it that they all talk about their therapist? And do they really need the therapist? And all of them that I see are on the left. I've never seen one Hollywood person who's a conservative who said my therapist. And I've been paying attention to this for 5-6 years now.
Right.
On every single podcast,
right,
when they start talking about their personal lives. You see it all the time with liberal comedians.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I remember seeing Amy Schumer on with Seinfeld. Mm-hmm. Well, my therapist tells me, my therapist tells me, my therapist tells me. Like, what? Now,
they make it sound like they're going to therapy every morning.
Now, again, it is the Schumer family where, what is it? Is Chuck her uncle or something, or cousin or something like that?
Cousin or second cousin or something.
Right. Now, that's another example. Does Chuck Schumer have a mental illness because the Baileys to him are real and he loves them? I'm sorry, but you've got to ask the question because it's odd.
And I think the virtue signaling question is appropriate because why is there that trend? It's not like one of them came out and said, you know what, I was going through some things and I went and saw a therapist, and I'm saying this because I think it can help other people. That's not the tone that you hear from them when they're talking about it. It's as if it is this virtue signaling approach, and they're almost bragging about it.
Yeah.
Like they want to be seen as the victim or somebody who is broken. Again, you can have a conversation and say, look, I think therapy is a good idea. If you require that therapy, then you should go see a good therapist. That's not the approach. What you hear, the tone that you hear, is them almost bragging about it, which I don't think, and again, I'm not a doctor, but to me, that doesn't seem healthy. That part of it just seems like either you don't take it seriously enough, or, again, you just want people to think something about you, and that's why you're talking about it. Either way, it's wrong. It doesn't make sense. And, again, you can't convince me it's a very healthy behavior.
Yeah. And I know that a therapist or a counselor can be different than somebody who's actually psychologically evaluating you because of a mental illness. We understand that.
Sure.
And people go through rough times where they need, to have a mentor or something like that is fine. But that's different than a mental illness. 866-98-RED-EYE.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley and I'm Gary McNamara. Looking at this headline, pop star Keisha comes out as omnisexual.
Okay.
That's everything. She's everything.
That's fine.
She's everything. I thought that was bisexual, but she said no, omnisexual.
Okay. I'm not going to even ask.
Which is...
I have questions, but I'm not going to ask any of them.
And her definition of omnisexual is, anyone, anytime, being dominant, kink, all while offering to send you some foot pictures. Let's get back to the mental illness part of the show.
Yeah. I'm not interested.
That's fully and completely.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thank you so much for being here as always. Did you see that the retired municipal judge, Judge Frank Caprio, died? You don't remember?
Yeah, 88 years old.
Yeah.
He had been dealing with pancreatic cancer.
His videos...
they're still viral.
That have gone viral over the years
are
just great.
Well, it's, he's, what did he say? Under my robe, there's not a badge, there's a heart. Mm-hmm. And he always, he's known for having compassion in his courtrooms for the people that were going through something. And then, they, of course, ran into trouble. And
most were minor infractions.
Yeah, these aren't major cases, but some interesting stories that they would share with him, and that would go into the consideration for him to help them out accordingly. And those videos will be around for a long time. Sometimes it's you see these viral things that go. I'm always interested in the America's Got Talent thing, because you had what's his name, Simon, who went from basically criticizing everybody on American Idol back in the day to America's Got Talent, which is where they just everybody cries after every performance, seemingly. But you look at this judge here and you look at those videos and it's like, all right, good. I hope it's an indication that there are people out there, whether they're a judge or not, that still take things into consideration, But, yeah, it was sad to see. 88 years old.
Going through some of the news items out there, the left going bonkers over the Smithsonian and the Kennedy Center.
Right.
And this was really fascinating. This was in the American Conservative. The Smithsonian's anti-white propaganda. You and I said, look, what has got in there, as we have talked about before, is the whole critical race theory.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem. It's the racism of critical race theory that the country has rejected. But there was a piece written in the American Conservative by Nad Dreyer, who wrote the headline, Smithsonian's Anti-White Propaganda, Washington's African American History Museum has toxic ideas about whites and strangely blacks. And he goes, look at this stunning exhibition from the website of the Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History and Culture. This is from the webpage about the menace of whiteness. Aside from the anti-white stereotypes here, notice the inadvertently anti-black insanity. Things like hard work. Now, we've known this already. We've known this is what liberals have been pushing.
Mm-hmm.
Hard work, being on time, cause and effect, rational thinking, respect for authority, and politeness, all these things, according to the museum, are manifestations of whiteness. And then he writes, did David Duke write this stuff? It's crazy. If a white man said that black people are lazy, can't keep to a schedule, have no respect for authority, can't think straight, and are rude, he would be rightly criticized as a racist. But there it is. At the taxpayer-funded National Museum of African American History and Culture, part of the Smithsonian. Now, the thing that Trump bringing this up, brings lots of sunlight into the leftist propaganda, the insane leftist propaganda. Because we said this a long time ago. We said, my God, they're basically coming out and saying that hard work, being on time, cause and effect, rational thinking, respect for authority, and politeness, all these are basically character traits of whiteness and white supremacy. And as the author writes here in the American Conservative, well, My God, if a white man said that black people are lazy, can't keep to a schedule, have no respect for authority, can't think straight, are rude, he would be rightly criticized as racist. But the Democratic Party wants this garbage and this racist narrative. They want it officially in the Smithsonian. That's why Trump doing this is so great, because all you have to do is bring the examples to the table.
Yep. Because I don't think most people would think of the Smithsonian and think, great deal of agenda going on there.
No.
Well, let's take another look.
You know what I think of? Because it's the thing I see the most. World War II planes.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly. You're looking at history. Fonzie's jacket.
Archie Bunker's chair.
Right.
Eddie Van Halen's guitar or, whatever.
Gary McNamara's microphone.
Nope. Not unless you went there and left it there, which,
And then they'd find that out and give me a call. Could you please come and pick up your microphone, or do you want us to send it to you? You need to pay us for postage, though.
Yeah. Eric Harley's vacuum cleaner. He was really obsessed with clean floors. Though,
Gary's utility golf wedge.
Gary's golf bag, the one that he used to carry that he no longer has a need for because he takes a cart.
Well, no, you still need the golf bag. I just can't carry it.
Well, did you ever get the golf bag that you could, you didn't have to carry, you could just pull behind you on wheels?
Well, I mean, that's you have a stand for that.
Right. Okay.
You get a stand. That's a separate stand. Well, you really don't know anything about golf, do you?
No. Well, I guess my question would be, did you ever use it that way? Did you ever pull it behind you?
Yes, I would get it. Yes, I would get it. As I got probably into my 50s, I probably did, but I would mostly walk with it because until I got, horrible back pain. What do you call it? Sciatica. Until I got sciatica, and that was the last time that I carried it. Then I stopped even pulling it because walking 18 holes and you're in the heat.
Well,
I just wouldn't advise it as you get older. So I take a golf cart all the time now.
Yeah,
it's like I don't. I used to play golf because I viewed it as like hiking with the backpack. I really did. I looked at it that way, but now if I go hiking now,
probably slightly heavier than a backpack, right?
Yeah, but I mean that's how I thought about it.
Yeah.
But now, because I plan on doing hiking this year, with my special orthopedic shoes, my backpack with only water. That's the only thing. My small backpack, very small backpack. That's how we view the Smithsonian. And then he writes her, he says, but there it is, at the taxpayer-funded Smithsonian. Why do we pay for this racist propaganda? The museum itself looks fantastic, but this is disgusting. The museum, the Smithsonian, teaches black people that being on time for work is racist oppression. Don't believe me? Look. Here it is. Wow. What kind of country do the museum curators want? He said, I can't get over this. He did an update to the story. He goes, I cannot get over this. If you assume that everything these curators say is true, then you can explain a great deal of the chronic problems within black America. What kind of neighborhood would you expect to have if most of the people in it are devalued? Most of the people in it devalued hard work, rejected the idea that they need to be on time, refused to defer gratification, did not respect authority, sought out conflict, laughed at politeness, rejected the traditional family model, and so forth. You'd have communities that were beset by crime and generational poverty without the cultural tools to overcome the chaos. There are plenty of white people in this country who live by similar rules, and they're chronically poor too. The black writer Thomas Chatterton Williams, is really upset by the racist crap in the Smithsonian that the Democrats want in it. Again, another example, the empirical evidence that the Democratic Party has institutionalized racism. He writes, I can't get over this. They are saying cause and effect relationships are white. Children will see this. The awful irony is that saying that black people somehow lack these qualities is the worst kind of racism a real white racist would spew. But this disrespect is recycled into anti-racism and sold to corporations and cultural institutions, and it's being put in our schools too. As someone else pointed out, putting this in front of kids is something like child abuse. And that's from the black writer, Thomas Chatterton Williams. The Smithsonian is defending itself from criticism and wants you to settle down and be holistic about its racism. Many will read histories, theories, and terms that are wholly unfamiliar. Conversations about race are difficult and challenge us to wrestle with our assumptions, preconceived notions, prejudices, and biases. As an institution devoted to learning and education, we welcome these discussions while also encouraging the public to take a holistic approach and read the information in the full context. What? And then there it is right there, the entire layout of the racism promoted. And what they're trying to do here, the Smithsonian, is sophisticated racism. Let's throw a lot of words in here to justify the racism against blacks. The Democratic Party wants to insult. They wish to brainwash. They wish for blacks to be victims, to always be victims, to be told you can never make it, that you must be taken care of, you don't have the ability to make it, and any character trait that exists out there that would be beneficial to you growing up to be an individual, an autonomous individual with a critical thinking mind is white supremacy. It is the worst kind of filth dressed up in a suit or a nice dress.
Well, that's it. And it's interesting because the liberal media wanted to make so much of the whole Smithsonian thing that Trump was bringing up. Remember, Scott Jennings commented on it.
Yeah.
You know, there's been lots of conversation since it began. Well, let's actually take a look. What is it that they really want people to think?
What does Trump object to? Well, Trump wants to stop the crime so in Washington, D.C., so law-abiding blacks, which I believe are about half of Washington, so way over but most of the crime happens in the black community. In most of the victims are. So he wishes to clean it up. That's racism.
Yep.
He wishes to protect law-abiding citizens, including blacks, where there's a much greater of a black city.
Yeah.
That's racism. That's fascism. This is how insane the left is. And then you see the Smithsonian, what they're willing to defend. Well, you guys want to take away history. Was that taking away history? Is our history the fact that character traits that are universal, irrespective of race and religion in Western society, that all of it is white supremacy? That being a considerate adult is white supremacy? That being a critical thinker and looking at yourself as an individual and recognizing your individual talents and going after it in a free society is white supremacy? That telling blacks they'll always be a victim and can't make it, and if they try to make it, if you try to make it, you're white.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, the racism in the Democratic Party,
that's
all because of identity politics, and then you've seen the anti-Semitism, you see the misogyny of the radical transgender movement, and they don't understand. Well, you know why they don't understand? Because they believe this crap because they're the racist.
Oh, this is
they're the misogynist.
This is
they're
how
the
they
sexist.
Think. Yep.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at JJ Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on compliance, safety, accountability. Compliance, Safety, Accountability, or CSA, is the FMCSA Safety, Compliance, and Enforcement Program. Its goal is to hold motor carriers and drivers accountable for highway safety and to reduce crashes, injuries, and fatalities on our roads. CSA does this by assessing the safety performance of motor carriers and drivers based on data collected during roadside inspections, crash reports, and FMCSA investigations. Based on the data that is compiled, motor carriers are assigned a score. The carrier is then grouped with other carriers who have had a similar number of safety events. Carrier scores within the group are then ranked to determine intervention priority. Low scores are better, so carriers with the highest scores are those that are most likely to be targeted for intervention by the FMCSA. Interventions range in severity and may include warning letters, roadside, off-site, or on-site inspections, civil penalties, or operation out-of-service orders. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. And that's why when Trump does these things, you know, everything. I mean, you think about it from the I'll just say Republicans, Trump as a whole. You look at, for example, Texas redistricting, and now the Democrats are going to jump up. Well, we're gonna show you, and it's like, yeah, but you're going to lose this because now if you do it, then all the red states will do it, and then the red states will actually win.
Right.
You've already gerrymandered it. So you give, in a way, after Texas does it, the permission for Republicans to gain more seats. Mm-hmm. When you look at the Smithsonian, you know, if you just talk in general, it's Trump, so it's got to be bad, you may be able to convince the converted, the liberal converted.
Right.
But when you get down to the actual evidence of what the Smithsonian was actually doing, and the racism instilled by the Democratic Party, and the average person reads it, they're horrified by it.
Yeah.
And if you're black, you should be horrified by what they're teaching about blacks that would be viewed as absolutely the worst racism possible if said by a white person.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. So almost every story we see that involves Trump, Eric, almost every single one, Trump does something. There's this incredible criticism, or the right will, I'll say the right in general will do something, because we also have the genocide from Israel that's all of a sudden disappeared completely. Why? It was all bogus.
Yep.
It was all lies.
Yep.
And it disappeared. And you look at the Smithsonian and the incredible allegations against Trump. He's trying to take the history of slavery out of there. He's trying to whitewash. And then you look at the things that actually Trump is upset about. And when you look at those things that exist there, the American public is outraged. In fact, it's the opposite. And then you look, for example, what's going on in D.C. right now with Trump constitutionally is on solid ground and what he's trying to do. And he's viewed as a fascist and racist by the Democrats for protecting Washington, D.C., and its huge minority black community from the criminals. He's protecting the law-abiding, innocent people from the evil people, and they're taking that side. Well, this just very quickly, we've got more examples coming up here, but here's Scott Jennings talking about it, and this all relates to the Democrats hemorrhaging voters, as we've talked about. That story came out from the New York Times. Here's Scott Jennings on it.
I think the Democrats are hemorrhaging voters because they've chosen all the wrong constituencies. They seem to care more about illegal aliens than American citizens, violent criminals than law-abiding citizens, and the Palestinian flag more than the American flag. That is not true, and that is when you take those positions on things like that, people tend to run to the other party. And
is there one mainstream Democrat?
There you go. Again, they're saying it's not true. It is.
It is true.
It is true by the issues. We can go point by point by point.
Look at the protesters. Look at the protesters and what they have been screaming for over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
That's not true. That's not. It's if you're denying it, you're blind or you're lying.
Yep. Here's J.D. Vance yesterday talking about it. Here we go.
They're calling Donald Trump a fascist for taking action that in 9 days has dropped armed robberies by 55%. So part of sounding less crazy is being less crazy. And if the Democrats were less crazy, I think we'd all get along a whole lot better. They're calling Donald Trump a fascist.
I'm sorry. It's in a loop and it went back again. I mean, just every single thing. I want to go to... this is Lindy Lee. Remember now, she's a former Democrat fundraiser, raised tens of millions of dollars for the Democratic Party. Lifelong Democrat, quit last year. She said it's been years in coming, but here she is on the RAV network. Here we go.
Murder rates among illegals. How do they rationalize that internally?
They would tell me in response to my protests that historically speaking, white Americans actually commit more crimes. That's what they would say again and again.
I don't even more, think that's true, and there it is. It's a statistic. Of course, more, because white Americans are 83% of the country. There, of course, there's going to be more.
Right, they should adjust for population.
Now, if you do the murder rate, violent crime rate, rape rate, illegals blow any other demographic out of the water.
I mean, I'm completely with you. You're preaching to the choir. And I've been assaulted on the streets of Philadelphia. Actually, people think that I suddenly switched. I think, this has been a years-long process for me. I would just be standing outside on the curb, listening to Justin Timberlake or whatever, and they get assaulted. Someone threw rocks at my head just for standing there. Welcome to Philadelphia. There are George Soros.
They may have been throwing rocks at you for listening to Justin Timberlake.
It's just amazing that, I did the same thing when she said Justin Timberlake. It's like ignore everything she says after that. No, I'm kidding. But again, she is absolutely passionate. Absolutely passionate. And she was a Democrat just a year ago. Yeah. And so you continue to look at this. I want to play this one, and I haven't previewed it yet, so I want to play it. Don't want to play it, but it's Representative Delia Ramirez, and I have the text here. Deporting illegal aliens is unconstitutional. I mean, they don't know what they're talking. I mean, they make these cases, and you're just like, what in the world? Everything they do. Then here it is. No Rothman National Review. The genocide's lies, slow, quiet death. You don't hear much about Israel deliberately engineering a famine in Gaza anymore, do you? Only a few weeks ago, that allegation was everywhere. It dominated left of center discourse around the Western world, and among its participants is Israel's caricatured wickedness was simply assumed. Likewise, the tactical advantages Jerusalem was supposed to accrue from this evil scheme were presumed. The Jewish state, it was widely surmised, must be just that evil. But the extraordinary claim persisted in the absence of equally extraordinary evidence for as long as it could. In the ensuing weeks, the children, and it was almost exclusively children, who were heralded by legacy media outlets and the anti-Israel activist organizations as victims of the Israeli malignance. Excuse me, there were problems with the printer there. Were revealed to have genetic conditions that accounted for their skeletal forms. The pallets of aid rotting on UN-run platforms on Gaza's borders cast doubt on the institution's claim that Israel was preventing aid from flowing into the Strip, as did the UN's increasingly dubious claims about the extent to which Hamas had never pilfered aid or throttled Palestinians' access to it. The evidence in opposition to the central claim against Israel continued to mount. Meanwhile, Israel's critics marshaled little in the way of counter evidence, retreating into the community of true believers for whom no evidence of Israeli evil is necessary to buttress the supposition that Jerusalem is forever wrong. And there it is, completely disappeared. No more. It's gone.
Right.
And this is what the media, but this is what political activists do. That's why we said a long time ago, they're not journalists or political activists. They go, they jump on, they do something. They're not shamed when they're proven to be wrong because everybody is in cahoots. Their culture tells them, don't tell the truth about anything, lie about your enemy. When it's found, your political enemy, when it's found to be not true, move on to the next one.
Well, that's it. And as you mentioned, no shame. They don't care about it. And they got the win for the moment. They controlled the conversation, or they think they did, for the moment. They're losing every single time. The night after October 7th, I said it. On one side, radicals. On the other side, everybody else. And we're going to find out who is who. And we did. And the left demonstrated that over and over again. And the reason they can't keep it going is because all of what they have said is untrue.
On another issue, it's very important for everybody to understand how they debate and how they argue. Yeah. And this is the liberal tactic of arguing both sides. And this has to do with the Minnesota Vikings male cheerleaders, right?
Yep.
All right. Yep. Rich Lowry. It's a campy escapade. The Minnesota Vikings have decided to allow a couple of guys to dance along with their cheerleaders. And if you are surprised and displeased, you are only revealing your ignorance. The team released a statement after there was an online blowback explaining that there was nothing new here at all. While many fans may be seeing male cheerleaders for the first time at Vikings games, male cheerleaders have been part of previous Viking teams and have long been associated with collegiate and professional cheerleading. Why then, fans might wonder, had they never noticed this happening on the field before? And why had the Vikings touted it as the next generation cheerleading in an introductory Instagram video? If it's been normal, why are you promoting it as the next generation in the video of cheerleading? If it's happened all the time, it's normal. You don't have to hype it. Well, the Vikings are doing a classic two-step that is a common feature of such controversies and liberalism. Something is deemed important and groundbreaking or completely not important, inconsequential, depending on convenience. For instance, when progressives thought they were on the march on the trans issue, males competing in female sports, was portrayed as a great historic advance. Then, after they got pounded in the 2024 election, it suddenly was portrayed as a rarity not worth trifling over.
Oh.
There's only a little bit of percentage. Why do you care? It's not everybody. They're not completely dominating all women's sports, right?
Right.
The Vikings are, in effect, saying that their male cheerleaders are this incredible breakthrough and utterly conventional. It's certainly true that there have always been guys in football cheer squads forever, obviously in the collegiate game, and also in recent years for a few NFL teams. But their role in routines is to provide the muscle, throwing, catching, holding their female counterparts in the air, not to dance and dress like their female counterparts. The Vikings' innovation is to have the guys dance like the girls. Since the dance routines aren't exactly wrought in classical narrative and are meant to maximize the feminine appeal of the cheerleaders, seeing men do it is inherently a little ridiculous and quite campy. Sure, there are plenty of men who could join the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders for their iconic pregame thunderstruck routine, but all the prancing, shaking, hair flips, and especially the jump splits were not designed with the guys in mind.
You lost me at jump splits.
Yes, I know.
David Lee Roth was the only guy that could pull that off, in my opinion. It's just ridiculous that they're trying to make it look normal.
Right. Perhaps Vikings fans will embrace their new cheerleaders as harmless fun, but it's unlikely that gender-bending frolics are what the NFL fans were looking for in their cheerleading. And that's the point. It was groundbreaking. This is unbelievable. We're breaking new ground here.
You're trying to portray that as normal.
There's nothing new here. There's nothing new here. They're trying to have both sides of the argument.
Exactly.
Why?
What is it you're trying to accomplish?
Right. Why are you arguing both sides? If you believe in it, promote it. Say you want men dancing as women.
Make the entire squad men.
Yeah. Well, I think it's it's the belief on the left that women are useless and men can do anything better than a woman. That's what the radical transgender movement
they're
has
demonstrating
been
that every single
right.
day.
Women, you're not necessary. Men can do everything better than you, including be a woman.
Right. Do like the Buffalo Bills. Well, it's equal. No female cheerleaders, no male cheerleaders.
Yeah, they have no cheerleaders. Yeah, they had them, and then there was a big.
That's equality.
Yeah, they just got rid of them completely.
Yeah, right.
So we don't.
Did anybody locally, by the way, when that happened, did anybody go, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe it"?
Oh no, it was a big issue because it was about it. The Bills didn't run their cheerleaders; they were the Buffalo Jills. It was an outside organization.
Oh, right.
And
that's different.
They were in violation of labor laws for having them do appearances without paying them.
Oh, wow.
So they just got rid of them, and the Bills weren't going to get involved in it. So,
I get it. Yeah.
866-90 Red Eye.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today because our show ends in a little over an hour. And when our show ends, it becomes our podcast. That's right. We record the show, and it becomes our podcast. If you missed part of the show or want to catch it, you couldn't listen one night, you can listen on our Red Eye Radio app. And also, if you can't listen on one of our great radio stations while the show is on, we stream all 5 hours live on our Red Eye Radio app. More examples of the insanity of the left coming up.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.